Hey guys, it's Jake here with another collection video for you all. So in today's video, we're going to be looking at and talking about the wonderful Expedition set, the first of the three Wizards of the Coast E-Series sets. So these were sets that, unfortunately, I didn't get to collect as a kid and I didn't even know existed, but I guess fortunately I stumbled upon pretty early in my sort of rediscovering Pokemon cards. As an adult, I saw these cards being collected and packs being opened, of these cards, and I saw the holos for the first time, and I, fell in love with them very quickly. I love the art style on so many of these cards. I don't love the E-series, the e-reader sort of look on the border of these cards. I've never been a huge fan of that part, but I do like the holo pattern on the e-reader part. And for me, the art in and of it, more than makes up for what I think is a slight weakness there for me personally, subjectively, because I don't like the way that it makes it feel like it's not completely centered. It's a little bit off balance. That took me a little while to get used to and get over, because I really liked those, original Wizards of the Coast cards that had that even border, as long as the centering was good. But once I got over that, I really fell in love with the art, and these were one of my first collection goals to work on completing these. After I sort of got through a little bit of that early Wizards of the Coast stuff, I grew as a child and felt comfortable with how much I collected of that. I really went after these as much as possible. And interestingly, because I felt like these cards were probably the most undervalued cards, in my opinion, when I came into the hobby, and the most underappreciated in terms of like the beauty and to me the incredible historical nature of these cards being like the last Wizards of the Coast sets. I went after these a lot because I saw, not only did I want as many of these cards as possible because I love looking at them and I love looking at multiple ones of them, but I saw great value potential in these cards, and I thought they would also potentially be great trade bait for me in the future, where I can trade with other Pokemon collectors to maybe complete some other sets that I felt were overpriced at the time, or it was more difficult to find prices that I felt comfortable paying. So Expedition was the first of the three E-Series sets. The second was Aquapolis, and the third was Skyridge. And in this collection series, we're going to go through all of them eventually, but thought we'd start today with Expedition. We're going to look at both English and Japanese because I've collected, I believe I've collected all the Japanese versions and at least one of each in various grades. And the English I don't have all of it. I have most of the set because it's just very, very difficult to find. There are cards that I have like 6 or 7 copies of, and then there are cards that I have none of. And that's just because of the way that I collect. I'm big on collecting for value, and I don't have a strong need to complete or finish sets. I really do enjoy just having multiple copies of sets. And my theory generally in collecting is that I can trade doubles eventually for the ones that I'm missing, hopefully. And so was always looking to pick these up at what I thought were the best value. And some of the cards I felt like were just so undervalued and underappreciated that I have 6 or 7, of one card, for example, in PSA 10, which I'll show you some of those copies just because it's funny. It's one of the least expensive from the set, but it's still beautiful art and to me, shockingly underappreciated. I own almost 12 to 13% or almost 10% of the total amount of them in the world. Just not because I even particularly went after them. I just had a price point. The way that I buy is I pick sort of a price point that I want to buy that card at, and I will buy as many of those cards that come up at that price. And so it's my way of doing. I don't really consider that much of a buyout. I'm not going in there and just buying everything that they have no matter what the price is, but it's sort of a slow over time accumulation of those cards at the price that I want them. And because I'm so patient generally, I was able to get them all sort of at the same price. I didn't have to pay much for the last few, just a little bit, $5-10 more for the last few. Whereas if you do a sort of quick buyout, you know, the sellers can become sort of wise to it and quickly raise their prices if they're paying attention. So let's look at some of these cards together. So the first card up here, Alakazam, such cool art, I think. Hope you guys enjoy it too. So a couple things to note. You know, Japanese does have that first edition and unlimited. The first edition Japanese stamp is down here. In terms of value, you know, I don't... There are two sort of camps when it comes to first edition or unlimited value. So a lot of these sets, there actually aren't more there aren't more unlimited cards than there are first edition cards, because the way Japanese printing works is that they print a first edition, which they give to the public, and then if there isn't enough cards within that first printing, they will then print sort of unlimited editions until the demand is basically until there's enough supply to meet demand, until they decided that, however they decided that. And so because often the first edition printing had almost enough, or at least like half, you know, theoretically maybe filled out about half what was needed, they you know, there might be a similar amount of unlimited cards to first edition cards for a lot of these. It sort of depends on the set. You see this also throughout, you know, the gold stars throughout the Nintendo EX era, you know, that first edition versus unlimited. And a lot of those sets, it appears that unlimited is actually rarer and more difficult to find, quite a bit rarer depending on the set. And I can do more of a breakdown on that in some, you know, somewhere in the future. It's a little bit of a higher level sort of expert breakdown for very specific people who are interested in those Japanese type cards. But I do think it's an important breakdown if you're looking to invest in particular, or you're looking to complete sort of a master set of all of these cards. Then you want to include the first edition and the non-first edition version of Japanese. But so the argument goes that unlimited should actually be worth more because there are less of it. But then the counter argument goes, but it's unlimited. And so even if there are more first edition, people should want the first edition, or are probably going to want the first edition more. And so I think there are people arguing on both sides. It's a bit of a niche thing, those unlimited cards, and people paying premiums for those. But like, for example, I have some of those unlimited like gold star PSA 10s that are extremely low pop because there just are so few of those. And for people really looking to get them all, they may pay a premium for those over the first edition, even though it has that first edition stamp. And of course, on the English side, we're so used to treating first edition stamp as the more valuable version. So it'll be interesting to see how that goes over time. So let's look at some more cards here after the Alakazam. This is the first one. The next card in the set is the Ampharos. Again, you know, all of these, pretty much all of these I like. I'll comment if I don't really like any of them much, but you know, really cool card. I love the hollow pattern in the back. I love the reds with the yellow. Ampharos is a really underrated Pokemon, in my opinion, in general. I really like it. So I think that I'm going to throw up pop reports, but not prices in these videos going forward, because prices are, they can run so kind of crazy, and it's so hard to determine, and I don't want to give you guys sort of incorrect data. But pop reports are very simple, and they have very obvious things. And I think pop reports, you know, because of that, they're very objective and factual, and can be like a nice data point for you guys to have to help you guys make your decisions. So here's another, you know, great art again, I think. Really love the little details in the background here. I don't know if you can see it on the camera so well, but it's all the little different like shapes and plants and trees and things going on in the background. There's just so much going on in these. Love the colors. One of the, more expensive cards here. I bought a few of these because they just were such a good price for a Blastoise. Really menacing, really cool art, half underwater, hollow pattern again. Really interesting, I think. Here's a a 7 actually I threw in here because it's kind of an interesting story. Actually, just someone sent that card to me for free in one of my in a collection that I got. It was a really nice thing. And just to also show you guys, beautiful card. Like 7s can be beautiful. The front is nearly flawless. There's a little bit of scratching on the hollow, but it's really hard to tell. And 7s are gorgeous, generally gorgeous cards. Particularly, I think if you can find 7s that have good fronts. In my opinion, I tend to prefer a little bit of edgeware with a beautiful front. I can really see a lot of those types of cards becoming more valuable and collectible over time, particularly if Pokemon, continues to grow in popularity. You may see some of these 7s, 8s, and 9s become more desirable because it's just cool having, I think, the PSA case, and the card still looks beautiful. Here's the Charizard. So when I learned about this card and I saw the, with the really cool green wing, when I learned about this card and I saw how low the pop report was and I saw how inexpensive this Charizard was compared to other Charizards, I was really very surprised. This is a card that's gone up a lot in value. A lot of these cards have gone up 3, 4, 5 times in value. This card, I think I got a really good deal on this card. I bought it for about like $800, $900, somewhere in there. Really good deal. And now I think the last one sold for like 5,600. I didn't double check that sale to make sure it was like a super legit sale, but it certainly is high up there. And frankly, that's when we look at like what other cards are going for, to me, that's not a very high price, not particularly high price. They're only, as you'll see in the pop report, last time I checked, we're talking like mid 30s, 34-ish, something like that. And on all of these cards, for people who are looking to invest in these, or for people who really want to collect them before they become very difficult to find, the high graded ones, there just are not a lot of these, particularly your 10s. So historically, a lot of these sets, although Expedition is pretty difficult to grade, and Expedition and Aquapolis are both more difficult to grade generally than Skyridge, although it can depend on the card a little bit, they are all 3 sets are becoming more difficult to grade. And that's either because PSA has become a bit more stingy and tricky with them, or just because they're just more people are sending cards from their collections that are not quite pack fresh, and so we're seeing a lot more 9s now than we used to. There were certain cards that had very similar 10-to-9 ratios that now a lot more 9s are flooding in, and the 10s are not moving up a lot during this period. So we're gonna have to keep watching that. A lot of these cards, the 10s have moved up not at all, the really low pop ones. Some of these other ones we're talking about like 1 to 2 in the last like 6-7 months, which to me is virtually nothing. That's an extremely small amount given how much demand I know is at PSA right now. Although PSA has so many cards there, and a lot of those cards are probably not going to come back for another 3 to 4 months, even 5 months. So I will keep watching those pop reports closely, and I suggest other people do the same if you're looking to invest in these, to figure out how quickly the 10s are rising, how quickly the 9s are rising, that sort of thing, really important. But, such a cool card in my opinion, such a low pop, such an underrated card. Clefable, not one of my favorites from the set, but still beautiful. Got the beautiful moon in the background, a little bit of like a dark sort of city skyline. Very nice. Got the Cloister. Another cool card. Really like some of the shapes and the patterns and the color choices on Cloister, the purples versus on the blues and different blacks. I love this card. This is like one of my favorites from the set. First of all, I am a huge Dragonite fan. Right up there with Alakazam and Gyarados for me. Just love Dragonite. And I don't know, something about this art I really, really like. When I saw this, I was so excited when I got this 10, because I've been looking for the 10 for so long. Like, I've been trying to find a lot of these in 10s for what I deemed at the time as a reasonable price versus other things that I was buying. And it was just so hard to find them. But this one I got in auction for like a really good deal. And I forget exactly what it was, but really excited about that. A lot of these Japanese cards I actually picked up in a big lot of them, which is another great purchase for me. Doug Trio. To me, definitely one of the more boring arts in this, but still cool. I like Doug Trio. Hollow pattern's cool on the ground like that. Very difficult, very, very difficult card to grade. A lot of these are very difficult. I don't think I've ever seen a 10 of this in anyone's collection. I'm sure Gem Mint Pokemon has one. I think he's completed this in 10s. But, very, very, very few people, if anyone, has. Got ahead of myself over there. Yeah, so the Fearow, I thought I had an English Fearow, but I cannot find it for this video, so I might have made a mistake and I don't have it, or I just put it somewhere else. I've been moving around a decent amount, and a lot of my stuff is in sort of like storage and moved around, and I'm sure it'll surface, but for right now, unfortunately, I can't document it. I can only show you the Japanese version. Beautiful card. I think Fearow is an underrated Pokemon. I really like Fearow. Was not the strongest Pokemon in the Pokemon games. Doesn't have the coolest attacks, I think, but so maybe doesn't get some of its due. It doesn't spit fire or something like that, like your Charizard. But some Fearow cards I really like. Like, I really love that Gym Heroes Fearow card. Just beautiful art. Big fan of a lot of the birds, actually, in general. Love the colors on that one. For Alligator, definitely one of the best cards from the set. Really interesting, unique art. Very realistic, like animalistic. Very interesting. Very different than our next art, which I also like, the Gengar. So much more cartoony. Been searching for a 10 version of that for a long time. All right, so here is the card that I own just like a million of in both English and Japanese. Golem. Definitely one of the easiest cards to grade, if not the easiest card to grade in the set. There are a few cards that are similarly sort of easy to grade. It's very easy to grade because Golem takes up so much of the hollow pattern, so you just don't get the same level of scratches. That's really the reason. What common sense would state is the reason. But not insanely easy to grade, and not that many of them. And I'll put the pop report on the screen, and there might be more of these cards now. But just to give you guys like an idea, like I just own a ton of them. A 9, I think, in there's Japanese ones. I don't know. I grabbed a stack. I have more of them somewhere. But, just to show you guys, like, what I recommend doing if you're sort of like me, which is, like, you're an investor and a collector, it's a good way, as I said before in the video, my plan is to take those and either sell them to fill out the rest of the collection eventually, or to trade those for pieces of the collection I'm missing, or for 10s that I'm missing. Because that card I was buying at like $40. Like, I was getting a lot of those PSA 10s for $40. And it was just like, there's no way, like, that just felt, that was, the packs were already selling for many hundreds of dollars, and that was a hollow PSA 10 that I was getting for $40 when the grading was costing $12. It's just like when I would see those deals, I just didn't understand why everyone wasn't grabbing them all up. But so and I guess it was because they didn't believe that Pokemon was going to go up this much, or at all. I think most people, if I'm being honest. Easy to say it now with 2020 hindsight, that they always believed it would go up. So that's the Golem, and again, like yes, easy to grade, but like to me, really cool art. I love the red. I love the drawing style. I think this whole set is underappreciated, and because it doesn't have those crystal cards compared to Aquapolis and Skyrage, which are also awesome sets, and I have tried to collect as much of those sets as I could as well. Don't get me wrong, I'm not hating on those sets, but I just think that this set, really has some of the it's really like the Gen 1. It has like so many of your favorite Gen 1 Pokemon that everyone loves, and it also has those starters from Gen 2 that everyone loves. So it's got so much going for it. And it has that first English Mew holo, which I think is a very special card, one of the most underrated cards in the Pokemon hobby. And unfortunately, I do not even own that card in English, because I even though I think it's so underrated, it never comes up. I can never find it. Even though I don't think it's, when it does come up, it's sold for enough. And if I had, been there, I would have snatched it up at, at the 10 price that it was selling for. Kingler, in my opinion, one of the weaker arts, but still great card. A Champ. We're making our way through a lot of holos in this set. This is the Magby. Baby Pokemon. Meganium. Cool card in my opinion. And here is the wonderful Mew. Such a fantastic card in my opinion. If anyone wants to trade with me, to trade me their copy, please let me know. I'd be very interested. Even in a 9 at this point. I was really looking for it in a 10 and trying to hold out for it because I think it's such a special card. But I just was never able to find it. So the Mewtwo I do have in English somewhere, but I couldn't find it. It must be with that Fearow somewhere. But here's the Mewtwo. Fantastic art. We've got the Ninetales. I keep saying it for every card, but again, just beautiful color choices, beautiful shapes. Love the way they put the holo pattern in it. Very subtle. And again, I didn't have the nostalgia connection to these, but because the art is so beautiful, it didn't matter. It doesn't matter. Pichu. Fun card. This one I do not have in English. Pidgeot. Been a really hard one to find. Not the lowest pop, quite a low pop, quite difficult to find, but just haven't been able to pick it up. interesting art with that red. Poliwrath. Raichu, only Japanese version. Rapidash. One of these cards, I think the Rapidash and the Arbok I got for like $25 each in PSA 10. Like that's how little popularity and momentum these cards had at one point. You know, and they were crazy. I mean, that was like half the price. A lot of them are that, you know, it probably should have gone for because I got them in auction. But it happens sometimes in these auctions. Like there just weren't as many eyes as there were now. Like I feel like nothing gets by anyone anymore. Whereas like before you could get these good auctions where cards would go for quite a bit under. Skarmory. Typhlosion, the 3rd Gen 2 starter. Fantastic card. Background's amazing in this. Tyranitar. I have again, I think I have this somewhere. Sometimes I get it confused with the Aquapolis one. So I think I might have thought I had it, but really I just have the Aquapolis version. Not 100% sure. Another cool card. I do like the Aquapolis one better of the two. You know, one thing to mention with these, and I do also collect some of the reverse holos, and I do own them when I could get them for a really good price, but I'm not a huge fan of the reverse holos. There's so many of them, you know, these were such huge sets, and there was a reverse holo for every card. It's just very daunting to try to collect all of them, particularly because there are very few graded of a lot of them. Some of my favorite Pokemon, I did get the reverse holo version, particularly the reverses that didn't have holo versions. You know, I like the holo versions a lot better than the reverse versions of these cards because I really like the way they did the holo pattern, and I just don't like the reverse look that much. But there were some Pokemon that didn't have that holo pattern that I did that really like the art, and so, you know, common, uncommon, even some rares that didn't have a holo version. And so those cards I went after in reverse holos for that reason. Venusaur. One of the easier ones to grade generally. You know, never had quite the price per usual as sort of the Blastoise and the Charizard, but even more so for a while because, you know, that card you could get for very cheaply for a while, although now it's quite expensive for that reason. The Vileplume. Not a huge fan of this one. Not really particularly like it. That might be my least favorite one. Have to hate on one of the cards, I guess. It's still cool. I mean, it's still an Expedition holo card, and you know, having that in a high graded PSA is a special thing. Don't get me wrong. And the last Pokemon here, which I don't have in English, Weezing. So that's going to be everything for today, I think, in this video. You know, final thoughts, just to sort of summarize, I guess, my financial feeling on this set. You know, this is a set that has, I think, tremendous value potential. You know, and I'm a broken record here, but as long as Pokemon continues to do well and continues to grow in popularity, and these vintage cards continue to grow in popularity, I think that these cards have tremendous potential if more and more people want to be sort of like complete all of the Wizards of the Coast sets. And particularly if people want all of the arts, because these they only have that unlimited, in English, they only have that unlimited edition. And that unlimited edition in and of itself is like very scarce and rare, maybe on par, we think, you know, just taking a wild guess, similar to some of those first edition Neo sets, which are pretty rare. I've seen them about evenly as I've been, collecting for the past 3 years. Those have come up about evenly for me. So I think that because the unlimited versions of these cards are about as rare as like the rarest first edition, cards, or the scarcest at least the rarest first edition cards within the rest of Wizards of the Coast. I think that makes them quite special and unique, and that you can't get that cheaper unlimited version. So your only option is going to be to go down in grade, and even that. I think that the real issue of these is going to be how many there are. Like for these even ungraded versions, I think fairly low graded versions for people who want to complete sets, because these are such beautiful cards. I think there's going to be quite a market for all of that compared to some other sets where they're just more of those cards in low grade, middle grade, and high grade. So we'll have to see how the pop reports go over time, particularly those 10s, because, as I said before, some of the 9s are increasing fairly rapidly that I saw. Like the Tyranitar, interestingly, like lots of those have been graded for some reason. But the 10s are not growing like hardly at all. Really slowing down. So if you have 10s in the set, congratulations. Hold on to those. 9s are also going to be quite valuable, I think, in the long term. And if you want to help me complete the set, anyone out there, please feel free to contact me, and maybe we can trade. I have doubles of a lot of cards that maybe you'd be interested in. So, all right, thank you so much for watching, and I will have another video for you guys shortly. All right, take care.